Welcome! In this Concord Pro review video, I plan to show the way you can start bi-directional collaboration between an engineer in SolidWorks and an engineer in Altium Designer, and what kind of changes are available on each side. So let's take a look. Seeing the board that I have previously imported from Altium Designer, I can edit the board shape by selecting the sketch that represents this board and do some basic edits. For example, here I can slightly increase the size of my board. And let's remove this board indent. So here I'm removing these small pieces, and let's say this is going to be our new board shape. I save these edits. Then I'm going to want to edit some holes. Here I'm taking one of the holes and slightly moving it towards the side. Okay. These are simple adjustments on the board, but let's say I also want to move this component here. As you can see, I cannot detach a component from the surface of the board. I can only move it along that plane. Right now it has mating applied to it, which makes it attached to the surface of the board, which means that the system doesn't let me do any irrelevant actions with it. I'd like to mention that right now this board doesn't have real copper information on it. For example, you can see it in this view, but this mode contains only the graphical representation of the surface layers of the board with the silk screen and copper. I'll show you how to get the real copper geometry in a bit. Okay, so now when I do the edits from the mechanical side, I want to pass these edits into Altium Designer. To do that, I'm opening the Code Designer panel. This panel is pretty simple. Here you can pull edits from the server or push edits to the server. In this particular case, after the edits are made, I will push the edits to the server and leave a comment on what changes were made. I'm mentioning the board shape adjustment, that I've moved the holes slightly, and that I've also moved two parts. Right now I'm using the same user account for SolidWorks and Altium Designer. I'm using the admin account, which means that all of the edits in the history will come from the same account. But in real life, two or more engineers working together will have a full change history that also shows who did what. Okay, let's go into Altium Designer now. Here I also have the Code Designer panel. In this panel, I can already see the notification from the Concord Pro server that there were some changes made that are available for me to review. I can select items from a list of changes and I can see exactly what got changed. For example, we see the new board outline on the hole that moved to the side. I use right-click, check all to select all edits. Some of the edits are shown in gray, representing that these edits cannot be applied on the SolidWorks side. Usually, these are the elements that are not available in the structure of the mechanical elements of the board in Altium Designer. These are inherent elements of the board, but there is nothing that can represent these elements from the SolidWorks side. In the panel, you can see that the elements do exist, but nothing is actually happening to them. Then I press the Apply button to accept those edits, and I can see all of the edits that were made on the SolidWorks side. Now of course, I need to do some further changes on the Altium Designer side. I'll quickly do some edits and we'll push this board to SolidWorks. I'll go through the same process here. I select Push and describe the edits I have made in the Comments field. I did a layout cleanup and removed the hole. As you can see, I get 3 records in my history. I moved back to SolidWorks and now I want to show you how to transfer the real copper from Altium Designer to SolidWorks. By default, copper doesn't get pushed into the SolidWorks model, but the information exists on Concord Pro. In order to get it over to SolidWorks, you should go to the settings here and select On for Modeled Copper Collaboration. The pull process with Modeled Copper Collaboration turned on is slightly slower than without copper modeling. I once again get the list of all edits. I'm going to use right-click check all, and I accept all of these. So let's see how these edits will show up in SolidWorks. You can see that compared to the previous view, I now have real copper included in my model with the actual copper thickness. I also get some additional information like a graphical view with silkscreen. Now with the true copper geometry, I can use it for models and analysis in SolidWorks.